Hi, my name is Scott. I'm an Irish podcaster, writer, and YouTuber, and I'm here today to talk to you about Commander. Commander is one of the most popular ways to play Magic the Gathering, and for good reason. While you can absolutely play 1 versus 1, it is most well known for being a multiplayer format. You would usually play in groups of 4, often called a pod, or any number of players for that matter. Playing with multiple people means you get to play with more friends, you get to see more sweet decks and awesome cards, and your experience is going to be unique every single time. In a typical game, there are 4 players and only 1 winner, so it's usually less about winning and more focused on getting to do crazy or silly stuff that you wouldn't get to do in tournament formats like Standard or Modern. If you're stuck between making a good play and making a fun play, it's totally okay and often encouraged to make the game more fun. It's important to enjoy these games after all. Because there are multiple players, you can get away with more shenanigans too. That one player with a counterspell has to work out if it's worth countering your Blackblade Reforged, for example, because if they do, they might not be able to deal with another player's Avenger of Zendikar. This is great news if you're a fan of slamming big silly spells like Thousand Year Storm. You can play to the people as much as you play to the game too. Not only are there no rules against forming alliances between players, it's often actively encouraged. Making a promise not to attack one player if they promise to give you their Wishclaw Talisman is a good example. This kind of political play is part of the core of Commander. Letting the gameplay extend beyond the battlefield is a fantastic thing that you almost never see in other games. Commander Legends might be a unique new way to play, being a draftable set, but it still has the spirit of Commander with all the hallmarks of the fantastic multiplayer experience. Let's take a look at some of the reasons why Commander is the most enjoyable way to play Magic the Gathering. Commander was originally invented as a way for players to be able to use cards that didn't really fit into Standard or Modern. That's why the card pool for Commander contains almost every single card in Magic's history. It's almost too many cards. Almost. You want to play aggro? Sure thing. Graveyard Nonsense? Go right ahead. Even Mill? I'd rather you didn't, but yes, you absolutely can. Anything is viable and everything is interesting. The beauty of singleton formats like this is that it's very hard for them to ever become solved or for them to have one best deck. Even if there was a best deck, you're playing against 3 other players. They'd probably start working together to slow things down and keep everything balanced. Sure, there may be some commanders that are considered the strongest at what they do, Breya Ethereum Shaper for artifact decks and Atraxa Praetor's Voice for counters, for example, but that doesn't mean they're the best pick for you. I've had more fun with Sai Master Thopterist and Rishkar Pima Renegade because they play closer to the way I like to play. Challenges are a great way for you and your playgroup to have exciting new experiences in Commander. You could challenge each other in any number of different ways to spice up your games. You could set a challenge for everyone to build themselves a deck around a niche creature type that you don't normally see, like crabs or dwarves. You could make a deck that contains only commons and uncommons. You could build a 2-color deck where all non-land cards must have both colours in their casting costs. Every card in your entire deck must have the same converted mana cost, or decks whose only real way of winning is through alternate win conditions like Mechanized Production or Approach of the Second Sun. They're a lot of fun too. As you can see, there are countless ways to customize how you build or play, and the challenges don't have to stop at deck building. You can make new rules for a game if you like. Whoever deals combat damage first becomes the Monarch is a very popular one, for example. You can even set your pod a Commander Legends challenge. The idea is simple. When you play some Commander Legends sealed and build a deck, keep the deck intact afterwards, then build it up over time into a fully fledged 100 card Commander deck. I did this all the way back in Dominaria. Every pack contained a legendary creature at the time, so I took one of the legends I opened in my sealed pool and started to build a Commander deck around them. The commander I picked was Teshar Ancestor's Apostle. When I first put them together, the deck was awful. But that's the point. Every week I drafted in my LGS and I would take any relevant cards from my limited pool and upgrade the weaker cards in the deck. I also traded some nice foils with some friends for some more functional cards for Teshar. My friends and I would play together with our weird sealed Frankenstein decks, and we'd watch as they got better and better over time. Now my Teshar deck is just finished and I love it. I still need a grinding station actually, so if you have one, hook me up, yeah? A huge part of Magic for many people is the lore. From the planes whose style pay homage to many different cultures and historical civilizations, to the fantastical creatures that are found across the multiverse, they all have a part to play in the story. The huge cast of characters that are highlighted on their own cards can really pull you into the tales too. They all show such different personalities and aspects to their colour identities, and it can be hard to not feel a connection to some of them. Maybe their tragic backstory resonates with you, their attitude is something you aspire to, or even that they're just a really interesting character. Whatever the reason, there's no better way to show that appreciation than to build a deck around them. You can play the hero with a Kythian deck, or be the villain with Yawgmoth at the helm. You could be the underdogs alongside Pia and Kira Nalaar, or even be the good dog with Mowu. And your homage is what you make of it too. You want to have every card tell a story? More power to you. Maybe you just think Zacama is neat. So do I. There are now more than 1,000 different legendary creatures in Magic, so if you want to find one whose story and feel works for you, they're definitely out there waiting to be built. Speaking of building, choices are another huge part of Commander, and you can have as many or as few as you like. When you're building your deck, you can choose your commander first, decide on a colour or colour pairing that you want to build with, or even choose an archetype you'd like to play. Then you build on top of these until you have a deck you're happy with, choosing themes and backup game plans right up to the final card to complete the deck. Or you could just buy a pre-constructed deck and play right out of the box. Most commanders can also be built in multiple different ways and with different cards. You can build based on flavour. Let's say Nicol Bolas is your favourite Magic character. You can build a deck only using cards that either feature him in the art or reference him in flavour text. What if you really like a particular Magic artist? Build a deck using only the cards they made the art for. Sure, it may not be the strongest deck ever, but it's probably one of the nicest looking decks of all time. For another example of this, we'll take a look at Atraxa, Praetor's Voice, from back in Commander 2016. She is one of the most popular commanders, and for good reason. She's extremely powerful, gives you access to several colours, people love Proliferate, and she can be built in a myriad of different ways. When most people see her arrive, they tend to think, okay, what kind of way is Atraxa built this time? Is it +1/+1 counters? Is it Super Friends? Infect? A mix of everything? Sure, these are all great choices and they're all very popular, but you could go off the wall if you liked, with something like Unusual Counters Tribal. Load up the deck with cards that produce energy counters, charge counters, brick counters. You could even win by proliferating filibuster counters. No two builds tend to be the same, and that's part of what makes Commander so fun and exciting. Many people think that Commander decks say a lot about their owners, so be sure that yours speaks loud and proud for you. When you're actually playing Commander, the choices available to you as a player can be wide and varied too. Unlike 1 versus 1 Magic, you now have multiple opponents that you can attack, form alliances with, play off each other, or win their favour. It's not necessary to play the politics of the table, but it's so fun, it's almost impossible not to. Sometimes, games can slow down and become very grindy, despite the fact that you're often playing big splashy spells. But the game's gotta end sometime, even if it is just to start another game. That's why it could be good to include a combo in your deck, so that you can go over the top of these busy battlefields and close out the game. It's worth noting that not everyone plays combos in Commander, so it's always good to ask your friends to see if they're okay with them. Combos are a much loved part of the game, and with roughly 20,000 different cards in the format, it's no surprise that there are an endless number of combos available across all colours. You might even have a secret combo in a deck you've built and not even realise it until you play a few games with it. Combos can be simple, like Niv Mizzet Peyrune paired with Curiosity, or super complex, like half of the loops in my Teshar deck. Especially when I have a KCI on board. One of the best things about playing these in Commander is that you can play with the ones that weren't quite good enough for Standard or Modern. I don't know how many times I lost playing Ral Storm Conduit combo in Standard. But here in Commander, they're all awesome ways to win. Combos tend to be more common the more tuned and more competitive that your deck becomes, especially when you're running cards like Vampiric Tutor to increase the consistency. If that's the kind of game that everybody's playing, go for it. Of all the best stories that you've heard playing Magic the Gathering, they've almost always come from games of Commander. It's not just the format where legends are played, but the format where legends are made. Oh, that's really good, I should write that down. The reason why the best stories always tend to come from Commander is down to the very same reasons that make the format great in the first place. You're playing with multiple players, you have access to nearly any card in the entire of Magic, and well, anything can happen. Sometimes these crazy situations just happen, and sometimes you want to go out with a bang. This is the single most important part of Commander. It's all about us players trying to find the ideal gaming experience. And as long as that's at the forefront, we will always have a great way to play together. The key to all of this is communication. Talk with your playgroup and see what everyone else likes, dislikes, and what exceptions they're open to. What if you want to play with silver bordered cards? Would you like Narset Part of Our Veils to be your commander? Like a monster? Do you want to put 4 copies of Squadron Hawk into your Heliod Sun Crowned deck? It's as simple as asking your pod. If they're fine with it, then it's all good. Even now, in these difficult times, Commander is thriving. There are more players than ever before. Content creators are absolutely crushing it with awesome articles, videos, gameplay, streams, and the ingenuity of the community is nothing short of inspiring. This fantastic community hasn't even let a global pandemic get in the way of having a good time. Thousands of people now play online through games organised on social media and played through on websites like Spelltable. It's a lovely way to keep social interaction and a sense of normality while still being safe and responsible. I'm actually building my Commander Legends seal pool as we speak with Obeka, Brute Chronologist, as my commander, and my friends and I are going to play on webcam with it soon. We still get to have our pre-release, and even though it's not face-to-face, in paper, in real life, it still has that certain magic to it. It might actually be better than in person, because now I actually get to mute that player that's flicking their cards. Commander is going from strength to strength, and it shows no sign of letting up. Commander Legends is bound to continue this trend upwards, with more awesome designs and sweet new commanders than any other set that has ever been printed. It's certainly stronger than my Obeka seal pool. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a game to both enjoy immensely and lose terribly.